So that's that was a problem. Oh.
Hello drone racers, I'm Mark, and today on Drone Racer 101 we're going to look at this really weird drone that actually has one propeller and really wide wings. Wait, it's a wing. It's not a quadcopter. It's still a drone because look, it has an FPV abilities and cameras and FPV and wings and everything that you need. So my definition of a drone means it's something that you're flying and you're controlling remotely and you have FPV abilities, you can see through it. So this actually meets the definition of a drone. Drone doesn't mean phantom. I actually like flying planes. When I started flying, I started with helicopters 10 years ago and they were rough. I mean, they were a lot of work, a lot of stress. So I got a plane at the time, a foamy plane, and realized I could fly it for an hour and not stress out and land it and crash it. And if I break it, I glue it back together with some super glue and then I fly it again 10 minutes later. Helicopters, if you crash, you spend hours fixing them. So I've never flown a wing before. In this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this SonicModell CF racing wing. I'm gonna show you how the components to go together, how a wing works, how you program a wing with a Taranis radio, and then we're gonna take it out and just make sure it flies. I'm not gonna do a full FPV setup on this because this is going to be covering multiple FPV wings that we can fly in the future, but I wanna be able to refer back to this one on how to get it set up and working, because this is a basic model, easy to use, easy to set up, ready to go, and the setup will be very similar on anything else in the future. So the SonicModell is pretty much a plug and play. It comes with a motor. One of the things I don't like about wings and planes in general is I never know what motor to pick, I never know what ESCs to pick or what servos to pick. So this makes it easy because it comes with the motor, the ESC wired up and ready to go, and the servos are all connected and installed and trimmed, and I don't have to worry about any of that. So for about 80 bucks with a coupon, I think this has pretty much everything you need. You just add a receiver, which is really easy to do because you have 3 cables, you plug in a receiver, program it, and we should be able to fly. So we're gonna prove that theory here in just a minute. Speaking of receivers, what I'm gonna use for this is a FrSky X4R. So I'm using this because it actually has channels. I'm going to control this with PWM, which means each of the components will plug into this directly. This is old school, and the first quadcopters work this way too. There's no S-bus, there's no I-bus, you don't have PPM, it's all traditional PWM. So what that means is I have a servo lead, and this is so weird because we had to explain S-bus and how that worked because it was so foreign for so many years, and now actually going back to this, like, what do you mean I need 3 connections to my receiver? So I've got my motor here, and you can see on here which way, and this does support S-bus also, but we're not using that in this case. I have channel 1, and that's actually channel 1. I have negative, positive, and a 1, meaning the signal. On this, the motor, this is the spectrum wiring, where the brown is negative, red is positive, and the yellow is the signal. So I'm gonna connect that to channel 1. It just slides on there, just like normal. And then already wired in each of the wings is a cable that comes out here, and it slides in a little hole here on the side. And you have to do this each time you want to fly it. Slides through, but then the wings are magnetic, so it's nice. They just pop on and off there. And then this is a Futaba style connection where I've got black, red, and white. Works the same way. And these are why we call these servo leads. I'm going to connect the servo. Now on this side you have to be careful because they are reversed. So the negative goes in the middle, and there's channel 2, and we're going to do the same thing here. Magnets hold that on, and then on the bottom I have channel 3. So where's the flight controller? There isn't one. There's no flight controller on here. You're actually manually flying by wire, essentially, the servos and the motor. So on here, there's a couple of things. There is the ability to add an FPV camera. Oh, one thing I didn't show because I haven't done it yet. There's a carbon fiber rod. When I connect these up permanently, it slides through the middle here, so it'll hold the wings together and in place and lined up so they don't flop around. That's very important, but I don't have that in at the moment, so I can take it on and off. There's a spot here for an FPV camera. We'll connect that in a future segment. There's a mount here for your HD camera. So what I'm going to use is a Mobius camera. You could connect a run cam with a change in the Velcro, and it would connect up there and mount up just fine. There's a little Velcro on the bottom here also to hold that in place. Battery goes in the middle. So one of the things with wings that's really important is there's a spot here that says CG. What that means is that's where the center of gravity for these wings needs to be. So what you do is you put your fingers on those spots and the plane should balance. So right now, see, if I put my fingers on those spots, see it's just tilting this way? It's because there needs to be more weight in the front. And the battery is about on the CG, means we need to add the cameras in the front. It's made for that. If you fly it this way, it's gonna tilt back and you're gonna have to fight it the whole time. This is why I didn't put that carbon fiber rod in yet. I'm gonna go ahead and take these off and get the receiver mounted. Okay, so here's what I've done. For my X4R, and whatever receiver you've got can probably go similar. I've zip tied it to the side of the frame here. This is a carbon frame, so I wanna make sure my receivers are clear it all the way. So I've connected my receivers, antennas. I've cleared this one underneath, so if I have a battery stick underneath or hang over the back here, it'll still go through here. So now I can still access the bind button without a problem. My antennas connect up here on zip ties with heat shrink, just like we do with quadcopters. So those will connect up and have a little bit of a different angle to them. That'll be good. So then the antenna will go through, and when I connect it up here, I have very easy access to the PWN pins back here. Should make it really easy to work with. Now when I want to put it together, what I'll do is I've got this carbon rod here. I went ahead and put it in so you can see what it looks like here. Now it'll feed through, and each plane might be a little bit different, but it'll be similar enough that you'll be able to tell what's going on. And you feed this through until it kind of snaps in place there. And this cable goes up here, and ground is in the middle. And this will just slide on right there. And then the other one goes on. I already see my problem though when I bind the receiver. I need to do it without these wings on here. But I want to show you how this works. Yes, it's a little bit of a pain to have to connect these each time. Some others, I've got one on the way that actually has the connectors built into these ports, so you don't even have to do this. When it snaps in place, the connectors go on. And there are some pros and cons to that. So then the second one here connects in and slides on there. So there we go. So now I could take out and fly it if I had the receiver set up, but I don't. So I'm gonna do that next. Now when you do this, you know to leave the props off your quadcopters. Well, this is a 2216 motor, so seriously don't put the prop on this because it will rip your hand off. Now I'll set the receiver up in my Taranis and show you how that works. Okay, so when you go to set up a model, you have an option to set up, and you do a new model, and one of your options is wing, which if you're used to quadcopters, you're used to be able to select the option and have it work. Well, we can go through, and yes, we have a motor, so we can do that. That's channel 1. Here, I've set the left to channel 2, and then the right to channel 3. So then we go through, and I have no rudder on this model. So there we go. So it should set this up, and you should be able to go through and have it work. The problem is that very rarely works. There's a lot of variables here. Like, it doesn't know whether your servo is on top or bottom, which if you think about it, if you put it on the bottom, the throw is completely reversed. If you try the model, it's cool, it might give you the right picture. Other than that, it's probably gonna be like these settings, these are the default settings that we'll cover in a minute, are totally wrong. So what I do is I just go through and delete these. Prop is off, I've got everything connected. Connect the battery, let it power on. So, hear that? Those are servos, and they just kind of make some noise. So I'm gonna go back into my model here. I've already bound this, so I've got it set to no pulses, same thing. I'm not gonna go through the binding procedure. That's the same as your quadcopter. I have my inputs here are exactly the same as your quadcopter, and then I have my mixer. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna start with elevator. So I'm gonna go through and set this to 50%. This is on channel 1. So there, I've got that to 50%, and I look down at the throw here, and what needs to happen with your elevator, when you pull back on the stick, it goes up. So this needs to go up also, and you can see there, it's going the wrong direction. So what I do is switch this to -50. Now if you get really lucky, you can push these at the same time, and it'll switch to -50. Now if I pull back the stick, this moves. The other side doesn't move at all yet. See, there's nothing happening over there because I haven't done any programming there yet. So I've got that set. So then I will exit. Also, going back and forth, channel 3 doesn't do anything yet. So I'm gonna go to channel 3 next. And this is still looking at the output on channel 3. So I'm also doing elevator. Change this to 50%. Now if I pull back, I'm looking at the other side. So now that side goes back. So now when I pull back on the stick, both of the ailerons go up, which means I'm elevated. I'm increasing the pitch of the plane, and I'm gonna use the wrong terms here all over the place. I'll probably drive plane people crazy. So next, I'm gonna go back to channel 2, and I'm gonna hold down and do an insert after. So now I want ailerons, and I'll do 50%. So now I'm just programming what this is gonna do, what this side is gonna do. So now, if I move the stick to the right, what should happen is this wing should go down. So what happens is the wings, you have the ailerons on both sides. This is the back of the aileron. If I want to pitch right, this side should go down and this side should go up. So what happens is it causes it to tilt this way, which is what I want. I move the right stick, so it should go this way, which will cause the plane to go this way. If I push right, it's moving the wrong direction. So I need to do the same thing. Push both sticks. Oh, so both of them. Oh, I can't get it. See, it's really tough to get that. So you can also just hold down. You go down to 0. It'll stop at 0. Then you go down to -50. So now if I push right, it goes the right direction. If I push left, it goes the right direction. Notice this side does nothing because I haven't programmed it yet. So next I go down here, insert after. Here I'm going to do the aileron, set this to 50%. Now this side, when I move the stick right, should go up, and it doesn't, so it's the wrong way. So that's also backwards. So then I'm just going to do it the other way and go down to 0, down to -50. Now that's going the right direction. So now if you look at my ailerons, if I pull back, they go the right direction. If I push forward, they go the right direction. If I go right and left, they're both right. So another thing I want to implement is what's called dual rates. It's kind of like having different levels of expo. So what happens is when you pull the stick back all the way, you're basically sending 100% signal to the servos. But sometimes that might be too much. So sometimes what will happen with a wing is you do that, and like a quadcopter, it would just flip way too fast, and you don't always want that. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So what you have is a thing called dual rates. So I can say, based on a switch position, this may be 15%, maybe 30%, maybe 50%, maybe 60%, or maybe 100%. And what I'm actually going to use is triple rates. So I'm going to go here into the inputs, and you see this 100 next to each of these. What I want to do is change that. So I want to add an option. I'm going to add it before, and I'm going to just change this weight to 50%. Or actually, I'm going to go to I was going to do 1/3, so 66%. And then I'm going to go down here to switch, and I'm going to say this is my mode switch when I'm flying a quadcopter. I want it so the middle of this is 66%. So now it's SE middle. So then what I can do here is do insert before, and then change this one to 33%, because I'm not really sure what it's going to be, and I want to have it programmed ahead of time, ready to go. So now I'll go down to the switch, select it, and I'll change the stick to the up, and now it's on 33% for SE up. So now you'll see here, oh, actually they've changed the way this worked. So it used to be you had to go through and set this up. So now I have 33, 66, 100. Just for old time's sake, I'm going to go through and change this. I mean, it looks like it works, but I don't 100% trust it. So now I'm setting switch, so just to make sure down is 100%. So now I can switch between these, and I'll do the same thing for elevator. Show you what happens. Now both aileron and elevator are set up, so I have 33, 66, 100 on the same switch, so I'm flipping this switch here, what I can easily access. I don't want to use this stick because the throttle will stay in place while I'm going. I can go and let go of that and won't recenter. This one I want to keep control of, so if I've got it on 100% and it's going crazy, I want to be able to make sure I have control while I reach up to switch these. Now I could do it on these, but that's just the way I like it. I want to make sure I can reach it without a problem. So I'll lift this up so you can see what's happening here. I'm on the 33% now, and if I lift this up, you can see how far the throw is. and then I flip the switch to the middle. There's 66%, there's 100%. So I can just control, and that works no matter which way I'm going. So there's full corner. So if I'm in the full corner doing the full throw, that's 100. There we go. So potentially that'll give me much better control. So now I'm gonna mount the battery that I'm gonna use for this in here and then check that center of gravity. So one thing I just noticed on this that's pretty cool, the camera mount here, I've got my old Mobius on here. That way if it flies away, I won't be quite as sad as if it's my run cam. But this camera mount is adjustable. You can angle the mount, so that way you can do up tilt just like in your quadcopter, right? No, actually what you want to do is tilt it down because the plane's going to be flying level and you want to be able to see the ground. So if you do tilt this, and I'm not going to adjust it yet, I just kind of want to see where it's at, you can actually tilt the camera down so you can see a little bit better. So now I've got the battery in there. I'm putting my fingers on the spots that I showed you right here, the center of gravity, and then I'm just going to check the balance, and it needs to be close. So it's still tilting back. That's probably because this is made for a camera and I don't have an FPV camera in it yet. Although once I do, I'll also have a receiver and an antenna hanging out the back here. So what I'm gonna do is scoot this forward a little bit. I can scoot it forward quite a bit. So normally, you do the same thing with your quadcopter when you just try and put the battery in the center as much as possible. So there, I've just scooted it forward. I may have to have a heavier one. There you go. Now if I put my fingers on those spots, it's still tilting up. Okay, I have the battery as far forward as I can possibly get it. I've also heated the heat shrink, so those are in place now. If I put my fingers on the center of gravity, it still leans back just a little bit. But if I go back right behind them, then it's level. So I'm pretty close and it should be okay, hopefully. So then I just need to put on the prop. I have it disconnected. Your prop, so this is a 645 prop, 6045 prop. Goes the same way, so you want the numbers pointing forward. So you want to make sure, I already did check and make sure my motor was turning the right direction. So as it turns, it'll push through the air. But if you find out it's going backwards, then you might need to reverse something because the prop needs to be going forward on here. So we'll just put that on there and then get it good and tight with the lock nut. And then we'll go see what happens when we put it in the air.
Before I fly this, I'm going to check the control surfaces again to make sure, yep, those are going the right direction, down. And if I turn right, that will force the air that way. Turn that way. If I go that way, it'll turn that way, so that looks good. I'm going to turn it toward me and check the throttle. Make sure it pushes toward me. Yep, it's pushing toward me, so that's going the right way, so that's good. I've never launched a wing before. I'm not exactly sure how to do this. My planes have always had props high and in the middle or in the front, so I didn't have to worry about getting in the way of the prop. That's a problem. So I think what you're supposed to do is hold it off to the side. Do not quote me with this part. So what I will do is I will get it set here. I will get my radio in my right hand so I can control it. I'll get the throttle up. And I can give it a little elevation, and we'll just see what happens. Maybe this will be the beginning of the video, and it'll be a disaster. There we go. So there we can cut down the throttle. So that's that was a problem. Oh, not what I had in mind.
Critical telemetry launch.
I flipped the rates the wrong way. Oops. That wing looks okay. That wing looks okay. Okay, let's try this again. That was really weird. This time I have it on full stick. I do not have enough space for this plane. It flies nice though. Flies really nice. Definitely doesn't need less stick. Okay. It's really hard. It feels, it's nose heavy too. Okay. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out to the to the runway. Oh, that's beautiful though. Look at that. Okay, I'm gonna come out here to the fairway to land it. That was a little harder than I planned, but I'm pretty sure it's fine. Okay, keep my hands clear of the propeller, unplug it. Okay, it is more than a little terrifying flying this in this little airspace. This is not a big enough space to fly it. I'm probably not gonna try that again unless I have FPV and I can see where I'm going. That's fun though, man, that's fun.
So there we go. I'm going to call that a failure very first maiden, and then a very successful maiden, second maiden. We're going to call it the second maiden. Except for the landing could have been smoother. It didn't go great, but the plane held up really well. I do have a little damage back here on one of the fins, but that'll be fine. It still flies fine. I'm gonna need some more propellers. I had heard these propellers were weak and it got marled, but it's still not broken. It still works. I've got a couple other 6 inches that'll work for it though. On 3S, I'm pretty sure it'll support 4S without a problem too, so I will double check that before I take it out further, but I didn't want 4S power on this time because you need a lot of space for a wing. A lot more space than I have. This is a par 5 out behind me, and it's not big enough, especially for line of sight. It worked. I didn't hit a tree. I didn't hit anything. I'm sure the people from the highway could see it, and it probably looked really good there. Even though it's a pretty small wing, it looked humongous out there flying at line of sight. So I really liked it. My center of gravity was off. It seemed to be nose heavy, which was interesting considering the CG buttons said I was tail heavy, so something's not quite right there. Battery could probably go back a couple of inches or an inch and level that out quite a bit, and those are kind of things you have to worry about with a wing. But if you don't have a wing, I encourage you to try one, especially if you have enough space to fly one, because it's a lot of fun. It helps a lot. Flying toward you with a wing is a lot easier to figure out than a quadcopter. And this one, particularly the SonicModell CF Racing Wing, it took 2 pretty hard crashes and it's ready to go again. I could take it out and fly it right now. It did good. And it's cheap. It's $90/$70 with the standard coupon, and I'll see if we can get an even better one. I can't wait to get out somewhere where I have more space and can put up in the FPV. So hopefully very soon there will be a video with a camera here, a video transmitter here, and we'll go out and fly. I don't know if I'm gonna fly it in my backyard with FPV. That's scary. That's very scary. I'd have to have too much altitude, and I don't think I trust it enough for that. Although next Sunday, I'm gonna be somewhere where I can fly it and have more room available. Yeah, hopefully the weather's nice. But anyway, if you found this useful, leave a like and a comment down below. Let me know if you want to see more about wings or drones. This is Drone Racer 101. It's a drone. You fly it, you control it remotely. It has a camera that you use to see. It's a drone. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I should get pretty good range out of these, but there are some other options available like the L9R that I've got, which would handle a lot longer flight. And then there's lots and lots of other options. This is the old school method. So until next time, remember, technically if I'm using these rules, even my FPV car would count as a drone.